Dear Elizabeth, I am writing to you again, for I have come across something that, in my long years as kindred, I have not ever encountered. I don't want to get ahead of myself nor spoil the suspense. I'm sure you are eager to hear of my adventures within this new land. After my last letter, I had become invigorated. I wanted to help so many people. It was at this point that I started to practice my newfound understanding of the powers of Dominate. Luckily, it was just in time for the regular hospital psych evaluation, which was peachy keen. It meant I had many people in which to practice and to help understand their innermost problems. Indeed, due to my sterling and tireless work, I became quite a workaholic. Grannies did not see me for weeks on end. I would spend long hours, even when the sun was up, within my haven, pacing around the room and taking extracurricular sessions with some of the more interesting clients. My understanding has now been exemplified. All my co-workers in the hospital have never been so happy. They go about their jobs no longer worrying about whether they should get a promotion or the troubles of their family. They are just happy. Happy to be a part of something greater than themselves, helping people. And my word, Elizabeth, you should see the shining eyes and faces when you go into that hospital room. All the doctors smiling, all the nurses waving. One sweetheart even got me a card. It was a little musical hamster that waved his arms around. Well, it was just adorable. It is nice to feel appreciated again, Elizabeth. It has been so long. This city seems to not appreciate my, well, way of doing things. It has been quite lonely being away from you and from the family. I have solace in the fact that my clanmates have been there for me. Young Mr. Asher and Leon have been stalwart companions to me in lieu of this lack of companionship. I expect great things from them, and I cannot wait to help them on their way, on their road to success. But it has been a lonely road. I've been spending a lot of time obsessed with my work and my usual routine. Yes, it is an unfortunate side effect of my diligence that I've been using my purge twice a day, sometimes three if it's a particularly slow one. This will not do, Elizabeth. It is interfering with my work. I have had to take off some sick days and missed out on some fascinating sessions. And so I've started to expand my horizons. Going into the office, I began advertising myself on the World Wide Web. And I got an email from a gentleman who runs the psychiatric division of the police department. He needed an expert opinion on a young troublemaker. Not wanting to disappoint the young man, I said I would come along and have a look. I went to the station. It appeared that this young woman was deeply, deeply disturbed. I saw her there, strapped to the bed, eyes as wide as plates, staring at nothing. Except when one of the orderlies came in to tighten her straps, in which she snarled and snapped, growled like that of a beast. What could have turned this poor child into something so abhorrent? You know I have a weakness for children. Their minds so unformed yet. I suppose in this day and age, she will be considered a young woman. But she was just a child, seeming so small, strapped to that bed. The doctor himself said that she had shown severe signs of schizophrenia and dangerous levels of paranoia. Any attempt to communicate with the poor creature has met with dumb silence or a litany of language I am not going to put down here to offend your delicate ears. I looked at her case file, and I looked into her mind. It was a mess in there, Elizabeth. A tortured ruin. She did not perceive this world as we did. She clawed away at the veneer to reveal a rotten underbelly. Men and women were but sacks of flesh that were clawing at her constantly. It is a cliche, especially when you speak to other members of our community, that voices appear in people's heads. We both know this is not true, at least not for the majority. It is an intense overwhelming of emotion, desire, feeling. These things that claw at us day to day, that drive us to do things that perhaps we aren't proud of. I know some people that enlist to the beast, the hunger. But I think our clan is in a unique position to know that it is so much more a rejection of the world that's presented to us. This girl had fallen deep into this well. I looked into her eyes, those soulful eyes, and I started to unpiece the puzzle. What had caused her to rot away? The deeper I went, the more troubling I found that there was very little of her original memory. So little. Her fabricated reality seemed to be all that she understood. Layers upon layers of complexity, of emotion and feeling, of people that never existed or only exist for her, constantly speaking. These people are more real to her than you and me, Elizabeth. This world is too banal for her. She seemed to be in a dreamland, a land of make-believe, of gnats and goblins and demons. Her conscious mind had divorced itself from her body so much that only her most primitive side was in control. After ejecting myself from her mind, I felt unclean. I had to retire immediately. The doctors were very understanding. Seeing such a poor girl in such a state would shake even the most hardiest of professionals, and I went home and I scrubbed that house clean. I myself fell into my usual pattern. I had a dream that night, Elizabeth. I don't dream often. I dreamt of the whirling chaos in that girl's head, the torrent of emotion. I dreamt her little hands reaching out to me, pleading, "Help me, James." And gosh darn it, I'm never one to turn away from someone who needs help. Something had possessed me that I would fix this girl. I would fix her and I would make her whole again. I started visiting her sporadically. I did not want the doctors to talk that I had taken a special interest. They are very protective of their young ward and most likely wanted her to be committed. The next time I saw her, it was in one of those god-awful institutes. She stared at me blankly. The drugs they gave her had calmed her more violent aggression down, but through those eyes I could see, deep under the glaze, someone who wanted to be free. And so I spoke with her. Small things about the weather, about her time here, about the medication she got on. It was me swiping to a soundboard. She didn't speak a peep. I must confess to you, Elizabeth, that perhaps I have become too attached to this young girl. Our talk seemed to be more therapeutic for me than for her. I worked my will, stripping away the layers of her fantastical world gently. I did not want this house of cards to go tumbling down to her into a catatonic state, which I have seen with many of our kind. I slowly stripped away, but it was painful to see that when I finally had reached through, she saw me for the first time and she cried. This was the first emotional response I had got from her. That was not a fabrication, not an automatic response, not a defense reaction. And I needed to know. I needed to see things through her eyes. I needed to understand what was going on in her head. And so I looked into her mind. And quite by accident, I looked through her eyes. I had no idea what had happened to me. This was not a planned experiment like my usual. This was something else, some desire to truly understand this creature that was set before me. And before I knew it, I was looking through her eyes at her small frame as she looked. And I, looking with her, saw my body fall to the ground. I blinked, and I was once again in my own body, on the floor, weeping like a child, blood and vita pouring out of me. I was in her world. I could see all the colors, all the emotion, all the wonderful and fantastical things that she had invented. This world seemed bland, banal, just grays and blacks in comparison. I can understand now why she would want to escape. I will save this girl, Elizabeth. I believe that she would make a wonderful addition to our family. Many nights now, while doing my routine, I think of her and her most intriguing mind. Such wonder and imagination. If only I can tap into it. Perhaps I can join that world again. Perhaps we can all